How's it going, everybody?
Hey,
Hello, hello.
welcome to another session of Vergence. We are playing a game of interdimensional conflict and family drama. I'm David. I'll be the game master, and also I am the designer of this game. Let's go around and introduce our players real quick and their characters. Let's start with Kirsten.
Hi, so I'm Kirsten, and my character is Mika, who was, and you'll discover this as you learn more about the game, she was lost, so she was not aware of her heritage and her power set, but always had some weird abilities that allowed her to get away with a lot of stuff. And then she discovered she's part of the royal bloodline of Agaros and is now traveling with these lovely people and causing all kinds of chaos.
Certainly, that is true. Yes, and Travis.
Hey, Travis, how's it going? Um, I'm playing the character Hawthorne, who is a Deadeye, kind of like ranged marksman, ranger, explorer type from the Maelstrom, part of an order of the Storm Knights, a collection of kind of militant warriors and defenders, uh, especially ones of the bloodline.
Okay, and Jared.
Hi everyone, my name's Jared. I will be playing Titus Maximus Damocles. There's a long list of titles after that that I will not get into. Um, he is currently still a lost type character, as was mentioned before. Um, he is not found in that sense, so he hasn't pledged to any of the bloodlines or anything like that. But he is a immortal warrior type, so hit things hard, hit them fast, hit them
Well, as I think you demonstrated last time,
good. And it all worked out.
it worked great. Yeah, yeah.
Those were our
Uh,
friends.
except for dead friends.
Hey, well, in this
Anyway,
world, don't stay dead, right?
you had joined an expedition to Ilium, which is an ancient destroyed Vergence. There had been various political maneuverings. You had dealt with various kinds of opposition. You passed through the barrier around the worlds surrounding Ilium and passed into a one of the worlds in the Ilian penumbra, which turned out to have ghosts or spirits left over from the Ilian War. They started taking over some of your members of the caravan. Um, Eventually, you got out of that world and into a different world and convinced some of the spirits to leave the members of the caravan they had possessed. But you took a number of casualties in that process, so you are holed up in a blasted fortress left over from an ancient war on a wrecked world that's gray and dark and cold. You have spent a night there recovering, reorganizing your people. Uh, Kyneth, the Duchess of Tresol, who is the empowered leader of the expedition, has been working to get her people together. Ketch, another member of the expedition, another leader, um, kind of a rival to the Alliance, has gotten his troop of special forces folks together. They seem to be holding a grudge against Titus
For no reason. I mean, the death
because he
thing.
killed a bunch of them.
I was about
Uh,
to say, what's left of them is holding a grudge against
exactly.
Titus.
The remainder of that troop is holding a grudge after Titus killed some of them to basically motivate the rest to move along, to get yourselves
He
away from.
really he needs to work on his people skills.
We could say that, yes.
Remove the facts.
Hey, are we gonna give credit to my psychic head dog for freeing some of the prisoners? Because
Mm-hmm.
Spike deserves some.
Yep.
For those watching the replay, yes, I said psychic head dog. Watch the previous episodes. Or we'll
Yes.
explain it later. I have a dog in my head.
You have a dog in your head. Titus has a demon scout somewhere hiding inside his body, given him by his father.
Oh, I have ideas for that thing. I'm so excited.
Yes, yes. And also in your head, there is, you allowed in a
The bonus.
a spirit from the previous world that was invading people's minds, um, and so of the three of you, on average, all of you have one thing inhabiting you, although that works out to two in Titus, uh, one in Mika, and none in Hawthorne.
Yeah, I don't know these people.
Hawthorne is the rational one of the party. She's basically just spending her time going, I don't know.
I have a ghost with knowledge of Ilium in my head, and I have a demonic scout that I have plans for. This is all working out according to plan.
Yes. Well, we'll see how the rest of that plays out. You have, looking at my notes, that's Siege Commander Ithacus in your head. We had not actually clarified whether Siege Commander Ithacus was Ilian or part of the alliance against Ilium, and I think it's more fun for him to be
You said he
Ilian.
was Ilian.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
did define Ilian.
Okay.
Because we even
Well,
bought him as an agent, with
Okay.
a expertise of Ilium.
Yes, that's right. Okay, so I misremembered. All right, so you, as part of your upgrades, you have decided that Siege Commander Ithacus is on your team, and you use some of your upgrade points to purchase him as a cohort, an ally of yours. Right now, he's hanging out in your head.
Scary place to be.
Yes. I believe you had taken a rest phase to recover some of your stress, and
Yes.
so everybody has some stress at least. So let's say it's a day or so later, the caravan has recovered, and um, you and the rest of the caravan have been discussing moving ahead through the local umbra of this place toward Ilium. And so, the commander, Kyneth, has decided that that's what you're going to do. The caravan, I think, is, significantly depleted between Titus killing off some people, between the various attacks by gaze hounds that you experienced on the way, and the attacks by ghosts. We're going to say that the caravan is somewhat depleted and impaired.
Well, that's just poor planning on Kyneth's part, obviously.
Is that something you're saying to her?
It's muttered. It's muttered. Mike makes, at one point commentary that if you thought things were planned better. I think really.
She gives you a little side eye, but ignores that. So the caravan.
And I smile at her and give a bow.
A bow, a little curtsy, and a smile. The caravan is now organized and together and moves out. Shortly, you find that she has managed to open a gap between worlds, and the caravan starts making its way through. And you find yourself in Ilium proper for the first time. So,
quick point. We added rest and recover last time. So does that mean we also drop 2 more stress, or is that on the next?
That's on the next.
Okay.
So you had acquired a new upgrade for your alliance, and that'll help you when you're resting, give you more stress back when you do that. So what you see as you pass through the gap between worlds that Kyneth has established is a world. It's a world of ash and blasted stone. So there are pieces of broken fortresses, pieces of broken skyships. Everything's covered in a layer of ash. There are pools of mud covered in ash. It's a land of rolling hills. You see kind of petrified trees. And as you travel in, you notice that there are insects, biting insects around, flying around, buzzing. So if you've ever been in an area with black flies that like to bite very hard, you're experiencing that, so that's not fun. You don't see any apparent native animals. The sky is a hazy gray, but up there are like lightning flashes going off fairly often, and occasionally you hear peals of thunder echoing through the landscape.
Two questions. Is it hot, cold? Just kind of curious about, because I know we came from kind of a snowy type world, so I was kind of curious.
Right. So this is a bit warmer.
Okay.
So it's a little bit chilly, but it is not as cold as the world you came from.
Okay. I think that was the important question.
I'm curious about how long ago this place was turned into Pompeii.
About 1,000 or 2,000, I think was.
Yeah, the Ilian War was a couple of thousand years ago.
So, at a risk of saying something, asking something stupid, what are the insects surviving on? If
You're
there's
Despair.
Yeah,
Okay,
sheer tenacity.
tenacity, ash, they're ash insects. Okay, got it.
The ash hoppers.
Clearly,
Oh,
there's
Nice callback. Nice gaming callback. I like it.
The other thing was the pulsing. That was kind of the. Is it faster? Is it the same? It's probably for sure more powerful than the kind of.
Yep, there's
energy thing.
Going through. You can sense it with the power. So anyone who has the power can sense that. Other people, it's just not a sense that they have, and it is a bit more. It's not changed in frequency, but its amplitude seems higher. You can feel more intense pulses when those
So
come
the
through.
intensity.
Yep.
Now, is this actually impacting our ability to function? Like, is this a negative
Not
on any of our roles or anything?
Not at this point. Perhaps if there were like a central place that were coming from, that might impair some of your capacity. But right now, it's just a kind of a weird buzzing, throbbing feeling in the back of your head.
All right. So, Micah turns to Hawthorne and says, given how the last world worked for us, I think we should push through and get out of here as fast as we can. What do you think?
This is Ilium proper, isn't it? Or no?
Yeah, I believe we've
this is-
arrived.
Oh, this is
Yeah.
Ilium proper? I'm sorry, I missed. I thought this was still one of the outer...
No worries.
Ooh, my video just went weird.
Oh yeah, you're getting a weird green.
All right.
Well, it's a frozen video.
effect.
Yep. Hold on.
Let's see if we can fix that.
I hope that doesn't mess up the
Yeah, it's a
live stream.
second.
It's back to normal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
All right. Sorry about that. I completely...
Stuff happens.
Okay. So, Ilium... All right, so we're on the very outskirts. And it's like this. Okay.
You see Ketch slapping some insects and saying, "Well, isn't this just wonderful.
Uh, yeah, I think Hawthorne will say something along the lines of like, well, your disposition does a lot or says a lot about how you will take in the world around you. And I think Hawthorne, I have that music ability. I think
Mm-hmm.
I've tuned to a frequency that keeps the insects annoyed and away from me. So, like,
Oh,
I have no insects bothering me.
yeah.
Um,
Yep.
I think that makes sense. And I also think that because Mika has that ability,
Tangential convenience. What an
tangential
awesome
convenience,
power set. Thank you
I
so
think
much.
that the insects keep kind of intending to head toward you, but they keep getting distracted by something else.
Can I
Uh,
just explain that for those who are
sure.
watching the video and didn't watch the previous ones? What tangential convenience is it's an unconscious use of the power that essentially I warp reality around me a lot of the time unconsciously, now consciously. But I Mike Mika has always been very lucky. Things work out for her. And
Mhm.
that's because of this particular power, which is the best thing
Particularly with regard to just
ever.
things in the
With regard to
environment, the
insects that
convenient little
Kirsten
things.
has a thing about, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, so you're not really bothered by the bugs. They're out there somewhere, and they sometimes make annoying sounds away from you, but not in your vicinity because they keep getting distracted.
But they
Uh,
seem to bother kind of. Oh, that's sad.
um,
Hmm.
I want to go and speak to Kyneth.
mhm.
Um,
I
or
will join Hawthorne if that's all right, as long as you're not trying to sneak it off. Because I think Titus
I'm
is
not
looking
sneaking
for
anywhere.
opportunity. Okay.
But I was going to see. I know we have uh, like archaeologists or like
Oh yeah.
learned people. Do we have? Um, I was wondering if we have any sort of like power attuned people who are trying to be like the like dowsing rods to find this pulsation or like
That would be
locate the
you.
source.
The
We
two of
are
us,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure if we like brought a team.
Yeah, no, you have teams, but they're you're the empowered people with the sensitivity to the power here. So in the expedition, there's Kyneth, and there's the three of you.
Okay.
All right. So we actually should be taking point and pushing through since we're essentially the, yeah, we're sort of
and
sending out.
and you do see Kyneth. She's kind of reaching out with the power, kind of getting a sense of how this world is structured. And she as you're approaching, she looks at you and says that there, the power center is that way.
Sure. Um,
And looking that way, you can see very, very far off on the horizon, approximately where she has pointed, there is um, sort of a cloud of smoke coming up.
Hill?
It's sort of like just way over on the horizon.
Ooh, okay.
like a pillar from the sky.
Yeah, yeah. Like a not, I mean, not a giant blast of smoke, but just sort of a,
Like a trail
something.
up, essentially.
Yeah, some kind of smoky trail is coming up from that region.
Um, do you believe, Kyneth, that holding the expedition here until uh, we will go and scout the forward towards this emanation? Um, Perhaps you should stay still. We don't yet know if more dangers lie waiting here.
Well, I I think we should move, but I agree that sending a scout party forward makes sense because this larger group is going to move relatively slowly. Is that
Sure.
what you're volunteering to do?
Yes, I believe that we will be most uniquely skilled to hopefully discover what lies ahead. Whatever is reaching out through the umbra, unfortunately, will not be as easily detected by our other scouts.
That's true. I'm also currently thinking that it would be good to separate Titus from
I was wondering when that was going to come up.
our friend Ketch for a period of time.
If that is what you wish.
She looks at you. You know that she is displeased with you for the amount of violence that was involved in getting out of that first world.
Why? Titus was trimming the fat. He really does not understand why everyone is totally not okay with
He
this.
truly doesn't. No, let me
If
just
people
Our
move
little
faster,
double check. So
you cut off a gangrous limb. If it's gangrous, you know, it's
Mhm.
simple triage.
Yeah.
Most people
doesn't
lost
yet
it.
You also did kill a fair number who weren't being being controlled at the time, just to kind of motivate them to move along.
Yeah. I mean, but it worked, kind of. Not really, but you know.
It kind of worked, yes.
GM question.
And go ahead.
Mika, I want to just make sure I'm remembering right. Mika does not yet know that he essentially betrayed her to her half sister, kind of.
Oh, I haven't started to betray yet. That's happening later in this conversation.
Clear.
But, yes, the first time. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So then
I don't believe that's been revealed to Mika.
So Mika's
kind of has not mentioned
helping.
it to you.
So she's helping, and she's actually coming up and sort of putting a hand on his back and trying to steer him away from this conversation and give Hawthorne the ability to continue negotiating.
One further matter, actually, because there are significant losses within the caravan. I don't believe we would be able to take a large force with us to scout anyway, so we can leave behind the Legion to assist in moving the camp.
You want to bring some of your people with you?
Well, Ravi can come.
I think it'll be better if we move as a smaller force rather than trying to move troops and equipment.
I'll kind of say she'll let you make that decision.
And I mean, it's also a good idea if, you know, now all of a sudden the caravan is reliant upon our soldiers.
There's
Pragmatic.
that. Yes.
What?
Please
Although
tell
you
me.
are,
He
you
doesn't
are
actually say that out loud, please.
Yep.
No, this is Jared, not Titus.
Okay, good.
Yep.
I'm like, come on, just keep it inside.
You are also leaving them, alongside Ketch's troops, so that could go
for
bad.
sure, that won't
Oh,
cause
our troops will kick Ketch's ass. No,
Well, we'll see.
it would not be a fight we want to go to.
Yeah. So
Well,
I might make a fortune roll for how that plays out while you're away.
Wonderfully.
Possibly, yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm steering.
Okay. Assuming Titus lets you do that, you're all sort of in a separate area.
Mm-hmm.
I assume you're going to take Ravi with you, your scout.
Yes.
Or are you leaving her behind as well?
No, Ravi comes.
Ravi's good at recon, so she can come.
She is, yes. Okay.
Ravi's also under Hawthorne's orders, so really, they go everywhere Hawthorne goes.
Right. Well, I mean, she'll follow the instructions of any of you.
Mm-hmm. As long as it's not die.
Yeah, exactly.
Do
Throw yourself into the fire. No.
you make any preparations, or are you just traveling off? I assume you're headed off toward that line of smoke that seems to be a center of power, or are you going someplace else?
Shockingly, oh, sorry.
I was gonna try to check it out from a distance. Like we can vaguely see it. We might not have a good vantage point, but I wanted to use some sort of analog to binoculars or a rangefinder to like see if there's anything going on around there that I can detect from this distance.
Yep.
And maybe it's obscured by hills, but
Yeah, we can assume that you brought some good optics with you, and you are able to climb up on top of, say, a pile of stones from a broken fortress and observe that. How about you make a how about you make a fortune roll using your study action rating?
sure.
But there's no
I've got
risk involved. I just want to see how good a view you have.
I've got 1 dot in study.
Can I assist with that? So I've got
Sure. You could
I'll let you
assist.
do that. It's not an action roll, but if you want to assist, that's totally fine. So that you would spend 1 stress and you would get 2 dice. What are you doing to assist, just to clarify how that looks in the fiction?
I think the best thing I can do to assist is to keep Titus from helping Hawthorne right now. Give Hawthorne a chance to focus.
So you're helping by making sure there are no distractions.
Yes.
Okay.
Would you also mind helping by rolling the 2 dice for me?
Sure.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
so fortune roll with 2 dice.
Okay. So. Helps if I actually put
A slash in front?
I put a slash in front. I picked fortune, then die, then 2. Come on, Kirsten, use the bot. Yay!
Oh, roll 6.
Okay.
Okay, so maximum information. So you managed to find a really good vantage point that's nice and up high. You happen to, you give it some time for some of the haze to kind of move away. And what you see is that there is some kind of smoky area off in that direction. You see that there's also denser clouds above and occasional lightning strikes flashes of lightning coming down from that area. And there's some kind of heightened, sort of raised thing. It's far enough away that you can't really make out details, but there's some kind of pyramidal structure or kind of raised structure. It could just be a hill. It could be the remains of some kind of fortress or other building, but there's some kind of raised thing that is exuding smoke from its general region, and there are occasional flashes of lightning. You, however, note, since you're taking your time, that the flashes of lightning tend to happen more when you're feeling that those pulses of power increase, and you're seeing that sine wave of power. Those happen more during the top of that sine wave than at the bottom.
Sure. Cool.
My
Okay.
camera froze. Okay. Huh.
That's interesting. Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Well, I'll take note of that, and I will relay this to our group. This doesn't seem important enough to me to alert Kyneth to anything specific.
Mm-hmm.
I think the caravan moving forward is fine. And I'll just kind of clamber down. As far as the fortresses in this area, or like the remains, are they blasted out enough that it's like we know they're fortresses by deduction, or like is there enough remaining of some of them that they are discernibly fortresses still?
Good question. There are occasional places where there is the remains of some kind of fortification, noticeably a fortification.
Hmm.
A lot of the places are just stones have been just blasted and thrown all over the place.
Sure. Okay. Well, I'll climb down and I'll gather up Mika and Titus,
Okay.
and pointing us in the correct direction, I will uh, just say like we should make haste. I don't know what this lightning is or where it's coming from, but certainly if there is anything beyond the natural, uh, we should discover it as quickly as possible.
Does Titus ask the ghost in his head anything about this, or are you just kind of keeping?
I was almost half planning on doing this as a flashback, but yes, I think because Titus is being uncharacteristically quiet,
Okay.
and I feel like Titus is essentially doing the wiki search in his head of however much information he can gather about what's kind of here. What could this pulse kind of be? What is the ghost kind of or
He's
if
he's being
yeah,
quiet out loud because his mind is racing with nonstop questions.
it's essentially it's like okay, hold on, I'm doing a Google search in my head, or
Uh-huh.
um,
So, are you just
We don't
asking?
realize that you have anything inside you, right, Titus? Like the ghost problem was resolved, but it wasn't overtly like we saw a spirit go into Titus or something, right?
uh, there's a part of it's like, oh no, it's super safe. But I think, especially because it's a crew upgrade or expedition upgrade, I'm gonna say Titus admitted it.
So we don't know about the demon conworm, but we do know about the ghost, right?
yes,
Okay.
basically Titus mentioned that as a ally in the sense of information and all that.
Oh, and we had jokingly said that Titus would every once in a while take on the veneer of a different person and just like spout information. I don't
I
know
was
if
thinking
that's
like, have you seen Shadow of Mordor or like Shadow of War or something like the ones where the guy has like the half ghost face sometimes because the ancient elf or I don't know it's like
sure.
a
Okay.
but I was thinking something like that, like kind of the ghostly outline over like half the face when what's his name? Ithacus wants to speak aloud.
Okay.
I like it.
Okay, but he can talk to us out loud.
Yes.
All right. So you can call him forth and channel this ancient Ilian warrior, and so you do that, and he says in so
Oh, the language.
the
Maybe
question
Titus has
of
been teaching him common or
language
universal
that he
teaching.
teaches. I think he,
I think he
you
would
know, he,
refuse to speak it.
right, yeah. No, actually, I think that he knows. Uh, I mean, so the language that you speak is called speech. That's the
Speech. There we go.
common.
I could not remember the name off the
Yeah,
top. So
yeah, no,
speech.
that's fine. It's the common language among the Vergences and Anchors, and most of the places you go, obviously there are infinite languages spoken out in the Umbra, but when you're traveling through the Umbra, you tend to just go places where people speak the same language you do, unless you're trying not to. Uh, Ancient Ilians spoke a different language, um, but I'm going to say that Ithacus knows an antiquated version of speech
Mm-hmm.
because so he spoke multiple languages, um,
Proto speech.
and needed to be able to talk to his enemies, right? So right, so the equivalent of a German in World War II being able to speak English, right? Not super uncommon. Uh, Especially if he was an officer. So you can understand what he says. He speaks in a somewhat archaic tone, and he is quickly starting to learn. He seems to be channeling you just like you're channeling him. So he seems to be
Yes.
pulling speech patterns from your unconscious. And so even in the couple of days he has been in your head, he is much more clear and able to speak in a way that is understandable to you. Um, and so you channel him, and he says, "It pains me to see Ilium in such a state, such destruction. My beautiful world."
What is the pyramid thing?
I do not know, but it could be the remains of the obelisk.
Obelisk.
The obelisk was the center of Ilian power, just as the
As
as Agarroth has its orb, and the maelstrom has its eye. Ilium had its obelisk. My death happened while it still existed, but from what I can see here, I can only imagine that it was somehow destroyed.
And I would say Titus relays that out loud if this isn't already out
Right.
loud.
Well, do you want to just say that you can allow him to speak with your voice, with your
Yes.
just kind of take over you momentarily and just speak?
Yeah. So Titus will allow him to kind of take over to speak aloud and share that information.
Okay. And I think when that happens, you kind of see a ghostly pale over Titus, and clearly he's speaking with a different voice.
Well, the center of power would be a place to make some sort of swell within the Umbra at large. Although it's strange that it is only now reaching out.
I mean, I would imagine the first expedition has something to do with that.
And Ravi says that, well, clearly we are here to explore whatever is causing that, and that would be the place to start, would it not?
I agree.
Yes.
Yeah, I think just for flashback purposes, Titus does actually gather some supplies and all that in a bag.
Mhm.
And
Oh, I assumed, yeah.
yeah. Maybe
Same.
is even carrying a weapon.
Maybe.
How unusual. Yeah.
I'd say this is getting serious. We're in uncharted territories.
Okay. Normally he's just, pretty much naked.
Yeah, no, he's wearing not armor, but at least clothing and boots and stuff.
Okay. You also, you had previously stated, and you can say that this changed, but when you were traveling through the Umbra toward Ilium, you had stated that you were on these kind of flying beasts.
Yes.
I'm going to say that the atmosphere here and the gravity and physical laws make it so that flying beasts it's basically kind of like Earth, right? Large flying beasts carrying people don't work very well here in normal Earth just because of the physics, right? So it's not weird to say that while you were traveling through the Umbra, you could travel through worlds where flying beasts carrying people were very effective and efficient. Here, they can, if they're the ones you brought with you, then they can get up in the sky, but they can't carry you very well. Or you can say that, or you could flash back to realizing as you're approaching this region that that doesn't quite fit so well, and you found other beasts to travel into Ilium with. I'd be happy to have you do that as well. That's fine. I'm not trying to handicap you.
Do we want horses of some or horses?
I
can come up with a suitably weird creature.
Yes. I have no doubt.
I think we should be riding something to move us
Okay,
quickly.
we can flash back to you. You switched over to finding other riding beasts. What do they look like? And they don't have to all be the same. Every one of you could have a different one.
I'm thinking So I'm thinking vaguely unicorn-ish, but let me specify now.
Okay.
So I'm thinking it's from the snowy world, so it's a little bit shaggier, a little bit kind of more built for a little bit more cold. That fur probably helps with these stinging insects as well.
Sure.
Um, uh, it has a little bit of kind of grippy, kind of retractable claws, so it can use that for climbing or something like that. And instead of like kind of a rhino horn, its lower jaw kind of distends, and it has this like nice little serrated looking spike used for gouging and all that type stuff and tearing apart meat and food.
Okay.
And kind of a mix between a reptilian and horse face, leading to that lower jaw kind of like
Okay.
unicorn horn. Yeah.
And I want to say it has a bifurcated tail that it can use to swipe.
Yes. I dig it. Yes. So that's Titus's unicorn. Everyone can have one if they want, but
Oh yeah, I think Mika somehow managed to find um, the makings of a weirdly pink and purple riding blanket and harness rig, so that her creature seems surprisingly happy with. And yeah,
Okay, so it's the same kind of creature, but a cuter harness.
much cuter harness. Basically, it's the Barbie Dreamhouse version of that. So yeah,
Okay, and pretty much the same for Hawthorne, and
Yeah.
I would assume for
Hawthorne's is in pink.
Well,
Well, she might like pink. I don't think
maybe. I don't want to make assumptions.
so. That's true.
Oh, well, I think Hawthorne doesn't bother with any sort of riding saddle. Like, that's just a waste of time or slowing us down.
yeah.
It's
Well,
not
it does
about
help
preference
to
of
stay
color.
on the creature's back.
Oh, sure. If you're not good enough to stay on it in the first place.
Yeah. All right, and we'll say that Ravi has one. So let's have you. I don't want to do a long, slow, travel sequence, but let's do a travel roll. So somebody take lead, decide what action rating you're going to use, and we'll see if you encounter any difficulties on the way.
All right.
Are we doing nose goes, or does someone want to volunteer?
Yes, somebody volunteer.
I've got traverse.
Okay.
I've got 2 dots in traverse.
That's
So
cool.
you are an explorer.
Yeah, no, it's perfectly comfortable for you to take lead.
I am an explorer. So,
Yeah, however cute your harness is, you actually know how to do this.
No, I mean, Mika's a ridiculously tiny little blonde thing that prefers pink, but
Extremely
it's not like,
confident.
But
Yeah.
she's not an idiot.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So you
All
have
right.
2 dots in traverse. So that's a perfectly reasonable action rating to use in this case.
I would assist.
We're going to call this a risky standard roll. Standard means that you'll get there. We'll do a montage of the travel. Standard means that you'll get there in a roll. I could make a clock and slow this down, but I don't see a point in doing that from a pacing
Hawthorne is
purpose.
giving an assist, so I get 3 dice.
Okay, totally cool.
Fantastic.
So it's an action roll,
Okay.
risky standard.
Double sixes.
Okay.
No.
Double sixes. You roll a critical
Oh wow!
success
I didn't even.
on your
Oh, I'm not
traverse.
reading. I'm just saying things out loud.
Hoping
Okay.
they happen. It works.
All right. So we've got the first critical of the session. Which normally results in.
I think the first of the story.
Is there something that? What do you? Or would you like to propose some additional benefit or bonus that you get out of getting a critical? What goes super well for you?
Let's see, what are
Any
the
of you?
disadvantages we're facing right now?
The unknown.
But yeah,
As we're facing it, it could be like we make super good time, or we see something, or I mean, if we want to tie this back to Hawthorne, we stumble upon a fully functioning airship with a crew or
That would be a little much. But
Um,
you could find, the remains of a road that is pretty clear that leads you right there. These are just things I could throw out.
that actually
Uh,
that would probably be helpful for like the expedition itself. Like we could.
yes, yeah, you could scout that road,
Yeah.
and I assume you're kind of blazing a trail for them, so you
Yeah.
could lead them toward that road. Does that make sense? Or do you want would some other bonus be reasonable?
I think that works. I think the road should be constructed out of some sort of, brick that seems to be a pale yellow color. That would work.
Yes.
No, no.
No,
It's
no,
covered in
that's
ash, so you can't tell. You kind of
it's
dust it
covered in
off.
No,
ash.
but my part isn't covered in ash because as my creature walks forward, it tends to like
The
get a
wind
little bit
kind of blows
step.
along and
Yeah,
blows the ash out of the way
yeah.
for you, just very conveniently, and you see down underneath the ash, and there are the remains of a yellow sort of cobblestone. So yes, you find a yellow brick road leading through Ilium. I'll say that there are still, sort of places where things are difficult to pass, and there's some kind of barrier. But for the most part, your travels are easier than you expected, and for much of the way, you get away from areas where those stinging insects are especially bad. Um, you occasionally see lightning strikes off in the distance, but none of them come near you, and you make extra good time making your way through Ilium. Um,
Be pushing it too much to say that when we get where we're headed, we're in actually a pretty good strategic position.
yeah,
Essentially, like,
yeah,
we're
you're,
kind of
you're not
up
going to be.
overlooking.
Yeah,
Mage is in the middle. Yeah,
Yeah.
warrior in
I
front.
would totally say that you'll find yourself in a place that's strategically good for you. No good places for you to be ambushed. A good place, good place for you to see what's going on. Okay, so that's going to take a couple of days of steady travel through this world. Right, it's quite a ways away. Uh, it was like way on the horizon.
Gotcha.
So
I relay that to Kyneth for what it's worth. With my ability to speak across distance.
you can do that. She will also. We had previously revealed that she has a void stone, and I think it is at least she has at least one void stone, and we had established that it was attuned to Titus.
Mm.
Yep.
She doesn't regret that at all now. No.
He's gonna get a call and be like, "Yes, Demon Lord," and Kyneth's like, "Ooh, who are you?"
I think
New Voidstone. Who this?
no, I think she reattuned it to Hawthorne instead.
Well, she's not going to tune it to me.
Exactly. Yeah, she's not going to tune it to you.
No.
And she's at least annoyed with Titus. So I think before you left, he went to the trouble of using her power to reattune this void stone to Hawthorne.
Sure.
So I think about once a day she is going to be checking in with you. She'll let you know that they are on the road, that they followed your blaze and they've gotten to the road, but they are obviously moving significantly more slowly than you are. So it's going to be another couple of days before the whole caravan arrives. Obviously, if you needed them to send out a smaller force quicker, they could get there faster. So you let her know about your progress. And so let's jump ahead to a couple of days later, unless you have something you wanted to do. And we'll say that you have arrived at this place on a a lip of a of rock that was a fortress. So there are very large broken stones all around you, but this fortress was just blasted apart. And you're looking down on a sort of an open flat plain. Off in the distance, there's a range of mountains that you hadn't seen before because they were way over the horizon from where you were before. And you see um, a what once was a very large pyramidal structure, but it was smashed apart, more so even than the places that you see around you. And we can say that Ithacus explains that this was the great temple of Ilium. It was a huge, huge building, and he describes that it was covered in multicolored mosaics of stone and was extremely beautiful. He is very sad to see it in this state. At the center of this pile, you see um, pieces of some other kind of rock. These pieces of rock, each of them you can see kind of within a glowing, writhing orange color. So they look different, and you can feel the power emanating from them. It looks like they are kind of pulled together, and there's a scaffolding around them. The scaffolding has been kind of broken, and you see all around this region there are fires burning, and it looks like the remains of more recent habitation than anything you've seen thus far. And it looks like there was a large encampment that was blasted apart.
Oh.
So looks fairly recent, not covered in ash. You see bodies, you see the remains of tents and wagons and other kinds of things. You see the remains of gazehounds, the same creatures that you encountered before. So this was a large encampment, maybe 500-ish people sized encampment. And again, there's this, kind of at the center of this pyramid, there are these stones that were kind of pulled together and are kind of bound together by a metal scaffolding, which is, and they're not pulled together neatly. They're kind of broken and fallen down. The scaffolding is melted somewhat, and you see in the sky overhead the clouds are denser. There are more lightning. There's more lightning strikes happening among the clouds, and occasionally lightning strikes coming down to the ground around you and into this pile.
Question.
Go ahead.
Does the encampment with the gazehounds, does it look like the gazehounds were essentially that it's a defense that the gazehounds were attacking the encampment, or were they part of the encampment? Like this encampment actually might be the people who've been sending gazehounds.
It's hard to tell. You see only a few bodies of, skeletal wrecked remains of gazehounds. You don't see an obvious place. It doesn't obviously look like there was some kind of battle, but it's a little hard to tell exactly without going down and kind of doing some forensics, basically.
Well, do you think they were trying to repair it?
It certainly looks that way to me.
Or were they trying to use it? maybe the reason it's taken apart is they tried tapping into it.
I mean, yeah, like putting it back together, repairing it to turn it into a source of power they could figure out how to use.
You do feel that pulse of, that pulsing of power, and the pulsing within the stones corresponds to the feeling you had. It is somewhat uncomfortable for the three of you. Ravi doesn't even notice that. It's nothing for her, but it's been giving you a little bit of a headache for the last, several hours as you've gotten closer to
Is
this.
it giving Spike a headache?
He shares the head, so.
Well, he
Yeah,
shares the head, but not
like, is this something that affects a gaze hound?
not specifically to him, as far as you can tell. But he's obviously not in normal gaze hound state.
That's true. So
Are there more? You mentioned there's these orange glowing rocks. Are there orange glowing rocks that are not a part of the pile, the obelisk being built?
Not that you can see.
And then the other thing is, how large? I just wanted to get a scope. Like, is this like the pile of rocks? Is it large? Like,
Yeah, so maybe 150 feet tall.
oh, okay, so yeah, very large. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, these are big, giant pieces of rock, of what used. It looks like they used to all fit together, and are broken up, broken apart from the same piece, and that the pieces were, uh, are kind of arranged to fit together.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure how close to like a cairn stone, like a small pile of rocks, or like
Yeah,
how big this
No,
was. This is massive then.
yeah, this is quite massive.
So
Okay.
I walk up and call out for Ithacus. Sorry, Ithacus.
Mm-hmm. Assuming Titus allows it.
Yeah. So waiting to see.
To come forward.
And you see the ghostly visage of Ithacus appear over Titus's face, and he suddenly has, Titus suddenly has different body language, right? And he falls down on his knees, looking at this thing, and says, this was the obelisk of Ilium. This was our source of power. It has been broken." And you see Titus's body uncharacteristically weeping.
She comes over and puts an arm on his shoulder. She can't put her arm around him because he's so freaking big, but
Yep.
she can, but this is what she was trying to get to is the orange stones are. That's the source of power?
They were.
Or are those new?
That was all once one object. That was all the obelisk.
That's
it was at the center of the Great Pyramid.
That's what I wanted to know. Okay, thank you. I'm so sorry.
It was clearly broken in the war. That was how Ilium was destroyed.
We will help you find vengeance.
Thank you.
And then she steps back.
Well, just a point that you should make is that the people who did that are your ancestors.
I know. I'm just saying, like, well, hey, vengeance on members of my family is not something I'm opposed to. It just depends on.
Well, vengeance against you. You're the most immediate Agorian available to get vengeance against.
I certainly would. No, I didn't even know I was Agorian when I was raised. I completely understand, and some of the Agorians are dreadful. There's this woman, Kyneth, you should know, and she's just the worst. Yeah. Hey, if we're going to revenge on people, my half sister is right there.
She's a good candidate.
Well, I mean, her seat really does need to be occupied by somebody a little more competent.
Oh, you're not going far enough. We're going Ilium Wars Part 2 if I have my way with it.
Hey, my father needs that seat. So eventually she's going to find herself with something in her bed that's sharp and deadly.